He's taking credit. Biden economics is helping us come out of recession.
Oh yeah, yeah. All right, let's talk about more fiction.
Welcome to Junker's Review.
We're going to talk about Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's based on a chapter from Dracula about the ship's journey from Bulgaria to England. Crew members start missing. They go missing one by one. One ends up jumping overboard. In the uh, in the chapter, the captain actually is, I think, the last one alive. He ends up chaining himself to the wheel, whatever the hell the wheel of a ship is called, and that was the last log entry. It wasn't exactly like the movie. Did you know that they have been trying to make this movie for like 20 years, 2000 or something? The movie stars Liam Cunningham. You never watched Game of Thrones, did you? Or did you? I don't remember.
Every episode, yes.
Oh, he played Sir Davos. It also stars this guy, David Dastmalchian, who everybody keeps making this big deal of. I thought he was the first officer. Did he really stand out to you in this movie? He might have. I don't know.
He really didn't. He wasn't a standout as everyone's saying.
Uh, then you have Corey Hawkins. He played Clemson, the doctor. He was. I remember him from Straight Outta Compton.
I'm starting my own thing. You can't put a price on peace of mind. I'm out.
In this movie, he's a black doctor uh, in 1800s, and the movie reminds you about that about 15 times.
This here's Clemens. He's a doctor.
And then it also starts Aisling. I guess it's Aisling Francisi. I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's Anna. She's a stowaway on the ship that's familiar with Dracula.
Technically, she's not a stowaway. Technically, she's cargo. Oh yeah,
She was in a cask.
She was in a casket full of dirt.
The ship had picked up a lot, some cargo, and they were delivering it to England, and it was just a bunch of weird caskets full of dirt, I guess. I mean, heavy caskets, and she was in one of them.
Yeah, she's not a stowaway. Stowaway means she just hid on there on purpose. No, she was cargo. She's actually food for Dracula.
The movie starts off basically with the Demeter already crashed. It's the last voyage of the Demeter. You know what's going to happen.
Beginning of the movie starts with the ship crashed on the ocean.
Yeah, the ship crashed. They found the diary. They started looking into it. It cuts back to the beginning of the voyage. The Demeter had picked up the cargo. They had picked up some cargo hands. They picked up some. One of them was the doctor. It just goes through sequences of knots. Basically, they start seeing figures. I think Clemens and one of the other members of the crew sees a figure one night. And Anna's familiar with this. She's the stowaway who'd been revived.
He keeps calling her stowaway. She wasn't a stowaway. She was luggage.
And she starts telling them the story of her village and how she basically was sold or
sacrificed for the village.
Yeah, Dracula was letting her village live as long as they provided Dracula with food, and that's what her purpose was. She was sold off to him. I guess not sold off technically, but given.
Sacrificed is a better word.
Yeah, sacrificed. Then one night they're there, and all the animals get killed one night. It's a series of nights. It's like it's kind of. I don't know if that's a strength or weakness. You seem to like it, but it's very repetitive. It's like they go through, and then the next night, I believe it is, one of the crew members, Olgarin, gets bitten. He actually survives, but he wakes up changed. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, he wakes up. I don't really know if he's turning into a vampire or if he's converted into a servant. It didn't really make that clear.
But he burned up in the sun, so I'm just assuming he was turning into a vampire.
Yeah,
he can move around during the day.
Well, I mean, before all that, he goes and he chases Toby, who is the captain's grandson, ends up getting bitten by Dracula.
Yes.
And then they're both screwed. And the next morning, they're gonna bury him or something, and they both end up bursting into flames. Yeah.
Well, first they were going to bury him. They had him in the shroud. They had him on the board. He was about to dip overboard. And the captain says, "He's alive. I see him moving." "No, Captain, he has no pulse." And then the captain runs over, rips off the sheet, and then the boy rips in, starts bursting into flames. He raises up, bursts into flames, grabs the captain. The captain gets his hands burned, his face burnt. Then they
Yeah.
throw the boy overboard.
Day by day by day by day, people dying off. They decide to try to kill Dracula, and
Look that up. How many days was that voyage supposed to be? They were gonna shoot him. They were gonna chop him up with an axe. They didn't know about the sunlight. They still wasn't aware of the sunlight, even after the other two burst into flames. They thought they could kill him with normal means: stab him, chop him up, shoot him.
and he starts like flying around. I mean, one thing to point out in this movie, until the very end, Dracula is not a human at all. He's like a monster.
Yes, I didn't understand that either. I thought she said that he could walk around in the village and in skies as a normal person.
He didn't bother doing that in this movie.
We never saw that. Was it because he was so hungry that he didn't have enough energy?
That doesn't make sense because he had been feeding on her. That was actually a weakness in the movie because it made it to where he had no. It could have been any creature.
Yeah, it was a creature feature.
It could have been anything from the, season 5 of Buffy, the Vampire Slayer. I mean, the creature was done well. I mean, it was good. Apparently, they used a lot of practical effects.
Oh, the whole movie looked like it was expensive. It was so well done. It was almost like a James Cameron had done.
It was, yeah, you're right. It was definitely looked like it was a 1800 voyage on the sea.
Yeah.
Fight Dracula, they managed to. What was that? The Anna manages to smash his head in with the mast or something like that. I don't remember. Like they thought they had killed him at first. They thought they had killed him.
Yeah, the mast broke and it sandwiched him, where it was still tied. The ropes pulled the mast down on itself, and then it sandwiched him between the top of the mast and the base of the mast. I thought it had impaled him, but it just had him pressed there. He wasn't.
Yes, he gets out of that. I mean, he ends up flying off. Then you see Anna and Clemens in the sea. Anna ends up admitting that she's turning into a vampire, and she just
you can see her eyes.
Yeah, she just sails off, or not sails off. She just floats off and bursts into flames.
Yeah, she turns around, sits on that little float, on that little piece of ship she was on. She lays it looks like a mask or something, a little piece sticking up. She lays against it and welcomes the sun. Yes, that movie especially when he was in the cabins, was in the captain's quarters with the captain's grandson, Toby. I wish instead of just looking like a monster, he would have looked like a human.
Yeah, they could have done Dracula different, I think. Clemens gets to London, he sees Dracula at a bar or something like that, and then decides to go hunt him, which I'm like, dude, this vampire effortlessly took out an entire crew of.
He's sitting at the bar, and I believe Dracula's following him, because all of a sudden Dracula is sitting behind him, and he takes his walking stick and he hits the floor. Clemens looks around, he sees the cane. Dracula is showing him the cane because he's seen it. Yes. And then Dracula gets up and brushes the back of Clemens' neck where he cut him with his finger.
They kind of hint around that Clemens is going to try to go find him or something, don't they? I think that sounds like a better movie. I mean, this movie's okay, but it's very repetitive. It's like a less interesting alien on a ship. I mean,
this movie would have been amazing if scenes where maybe Dracula was starting to get his strength back to the end, where he starts out as just a creature, and then he slowly eating, feeding on people, and then he starts morphing into a human. He starts being able to, and a human. So like with the boy, because the boy was basically one of the last kills. if he'd have changed into a human and trying to, what's what I'm looking for? Console the child before he bites him, that would have been a lot better. They'd have had him, just the creature feature is all it is.
Well, the thing is you didn't get any of the incredible intelligence of Dracula out of this movie, calculating. He was just going around killing these people. I mean, not even really trying to hide himself, to be honest.
And it was all it was instinctual. That's how it came across. Just an instinctual animal killing people.
So the Dracula himself is a weakness in this movie. That's a big weakness. This is a Dracula movie.
I know, but everything else was well done. Everything else was so well done.
I mean, it was shot well. The acting was pretty good.
The dialogue was spot on for that time period.
The pacing was repetitive. I mean, it could have been a little bit shorter. That's just honestly, I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking most movies could be done, at least the ones they're putting out now. Most movies could be 90 minutes.
That movie would not have felt repetitive if we had saw the Dracula transforming from a beast Dracula or beast vampire into Dracula.
I'm going to look something up right now. I had heard that they constructed. Hold on, I'm going to look this up. Apparently, for this movie, they built that ship. Let me see. Hold on a second.
But it seemed weird. It seemed like the ship was bigger on the inside than it was on the outside. So I just assumed all of the inside of the ships was like a stage, then on a stage.
You're right about that. Okay. They did build. They built the exterior of the ship. They constructed it at Malta Film Studios. The exterior scenes were shot. It was an actual ship. The interior was shot on a soundstage.
Yeah, you could tell just by the depth and the width of the bows of the ship. You could
you're saying the inside of the ship looked bigger than.
Oh yeah, it was definitely bigger. The inside of the ship was bigger. And you could see it.
Yeah, it was like the TARDIS. It seemed like an aircraft carrier. I mean, they just had bowels and cabins and.
They had this huge galley, and then they had like the sleeping area, and then they had like the cargo area, and the cargo area was huge. And they said, go, you see all these coffin size crates stacked on top of each other and stacked linear this way. And then you look, then they're on the deck, and they like 3 steps. You're from one side of the deck to the other.
I would probably give this movie a B- or a C+. It wasn't great, but if you're into like horror movies and stuff, supernatural things, especially if you're a Dracula fan, you probably would find this movie entertaining. If you're not, you might find it boring.
Frustrating. I'm going to have to give it a C+ just for the lack of vision for Dracula.
See it if you got time or if you're into this genre.
They did a good job with everything but Dracula. This is Junker's Review. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell.
See y'all later. So
you know how long I've had the Star Wars shirt? This is a Star Wars shirt that just has Vader, and it's not that. It's the old Star Wars stuff. I found it in my old T-shirt. Look at that. It's Vader.